Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name's Joe Kuzma, and wow, what a holiday hangover. I tried to get to everybody a little bit earlier this week, and I blinked, and all of a sudden, it's the end of the week. I hope everyone had a pleasant and enjoyable 4th of July weekend. I ate like a king, everything from ribs to bratwurst. If you saw my tweet, why don't they put 5 in a pack? What the heck is up with that? 5 of the bratwursts in a pack, and the buns, there's 6 of them. It drives me crazy. You know, at least the hot dog people, they got it right for the most part. 8 and 8 ends up working out. Even the burgers, you get maybe 8 or 12 in a frozen pack. You know, when you get the 5 or 6 and it's the fresh thing and you get 8 buns, yeah, I don't get it. It drives my OCD crazy. I got to do math. I don't want to do math. I'm trying to be an adult here. You know what I mean? Well, end of the week, got a pretty interesting, it's not really even a topic, is it? It's just an overall rant on a bunch of different things. Like I said, there's been nights where sometimes I throw on YouTube some of the best entertainment, even before my time, or I was even too young to understand it. Rodney Dangerfield, particularly The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. The guy gets no respect. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're not getting a whole lot of respect either. So got some different topics about that, because it's that time of the year where we're still not quite all the way to football season. About a month away. We're going to have training camp starting up. We got some dates for when that'll be open to the public that I'm going to share here in a moment. And right around the corner, too, got to mention our partner here, the Chase Claypool Youth Football Pro Camp. That is still happening on July 21st. I hear that the spots are almost closed up. So if you have a young boy or girl in grades 1 through 8 that's interested in attending this on July 21st, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Head on over to chaseclaypoolcamp.com and use promo code Steel City, and that will get you a discount on the one-day camp with Chase Claypool and a variety of coaches. It is limited capacity, and it is held in accordance with all local COVID-19 guidelines and restrictions. So definitely something to check out. That's right around the corner. Training camp starting right around the corner as well, as I had just mentioned. However, the interesting thing here is that I do believe that the Steelers will be reporting a little bit earlier than the date that's shown here. These are the dates that the Steelers published on Thursday, starting with July 28th at Heinz Field. They're available to the public, but there is like a reservation process, so you got to go through, I believe, Ticketmaster. It's free of charge, but I believe due to whatever guidelines that they have to adhere to, they're only allowed to have so many people in the stadium, so that has to be reserved. They can't have like one day where 20,000 people show up. I don't know what the figure is, but maybe one day they have 5,000, another day they have like 20,000, and all of a sudden they have to turn people away, and that would upset people. So make sure you look into that. That unfortunately starts when I'm going on vacation, so I'm going to be missing like the first week of training camp here, a major bummer. I hate to admit that. So we'll see how much of this, like last year, I could glean from like Steelers.com and some things like that. They were very good at they're showing some things. They're not going to put everything on video because obviously, they're not going to tip their cap to anybody, right? But the interesting part here is, you know, the Steelers are playing in this Hall of Fame game against the Dallas Cowboys in Canton. That's occurring on August 5th, a Thursday. It used to be like a Sunday thing, and now it's like they play it ahead because if you remember the whole new field that got put in Canton, they redid the whole stadium. That thing was crumbling in certain spots. It had a very historic feel to it, but now it's a more modern state-of-the-art facility. And you remember Sean Sweesham, he ended up ending his career. He got hurt there trying to make a tackle on that field. So it's one of those things where a lot of people were like, whoa, the Steelers just signed. This was just on July 1st. I can't remember if we had this news or not, but I'll repeat it. Forgive me if I'm beating a dead horse, broken record, whatever. I tend to do that a lot. Going to do that some more later in the show as well. Put a fresh spin on it, hopefully. But they signed Sam Sloman. And I kind of have the impression that the Hall of Fame game is going to be a lot of Josh Dobbs, who, for all intents and purposes, we got to see what the practice squad shakes out to be like. He's the QB4 right now. He's there, I think, as insurance in case Dwayne Haskins doesn't have his head or heart or whatever else into this to make this roster. So we're going to see, we may see Haskins too. I don't know, but I have this gut feeling that there's going to be like 30 guys on the sideline in T-shirts and shorts. You're not going to see T.J. Watt. You're not going to see Ben Roethlisberger, et cetera, et cetera. I may be even surprised if they risk putting Mason Rudolph out there, and certainly they're not going to risk putting Chris Boswell out there. But anyways, the turf was different. It was like that. It wasn't quite the same type of field turf that's in use now. And then they went out and went to paint the field. Yeah, they painted it before a concert. They have a concert there over the weekend now. It's like this, gimmick to get people to stay for the whole course there, because you have the enshrinement ceremony. There's like a gold jacket dinner. There's a whole lot of stuff to do, quite frankly. The only thing is like if you actually go to do the physical museum, it's just elbow to elbow jam packed with people, and that was before you had maybe any type of pandemic protocols or anything like that, which I don't know is in place for sure. But that Thursday on, what did I say, August 5th, Steelers play that Hall of Fame game, and then they're right back at it at practice. So they're practicing right up from, let me see here. We've got, I lost the tab in case you're wondering, what the heck's he doing? July 28th, 29th, 31st, and then they take a break for August 1st, which is a Sunday, and come right back for the 2nd and 3rd, take a break traveling, bookending days off around that Thursday Hall of Fame game, come right back to practice on the 7th and 8th, and I found that a little bit interesting to be at Heinz Field. Now, it isn't like Pittsburgh to Canton is a really long trip, and there may not be as many people who have, let's say, I don't want to say an attachment, but maybe a connection to some of the enshrinees. Like Troy Polamalu is going to be going in. The 2020 class postponed from last year, so you're going to have Bill Cowher and Troy Polamalu as part of the ceremonies on Saturday, if it's still planned as it was before, because remember, Bill was part of the centennial type deal here, but they were going to actually have him make a speech as part of the the actual ceremony, whereas I think some of the other players had already done that prior. So I guess we'll see. But then Sunday is Alan Faneca, and I'm thinking, well, Ben is like the last guy, like one of the last guys standing, aside from some coaching staff, obviously, or ownership like Art Rooney, Mike Tomlin. So I'm like, are they going to take a trip over? Because all of these training camp dates with Heinz Field, this is interesting. When we were at St. Vincent College, it was like 2:55, and they'd go and we'd warm up, or they'd be coming down the hill around that time, 2:45, 3 o'clock-ish, until about 5:30. So you got a whole bunch of 1:30 starts here, except for the 17th, which is at 12:15. And playing that around the preseason schedule, the Steelers play 2 consecutive Thursdays in a row. So they go back on the 12th to travel to Philadelphia, and then they boomerang back around to Heinz Field for their only home preseason game this year. Remember, there's fewer preseason games. You got more regular season games now. So the Steelers and the Lions, but those sessions will be closed up by the time you get to that. That's the 21st, the 18th. Which is the Wednesday, so less than a week after that second preseason game against the Eagles, which is week 1 of the preseason for everyone else. The Steelers and Cowboys got a little bit of a jump on it because of the Hall of Fame festivities. So on that Wednesday, the 18th, they close up the Heinz Field, open to public practices. So keep that in mind if you're making any type of plans for that, the Chase Claypool camp, anything like that. Also around the Hall of Fame stuff. I think it'll be interesting. I'm going to try and see if I could go out to Heinz Field I mean, it's like Pittsburgh to Canton, Canton to Pittsburgh to do this type of thing over that a busy weekend, and definitely I'll be in attendance, as will Brian. Hopefully, we're going to see what's going on with my man here, but we got our tickets. We're going to be in attendance. Come check us out if you're there in Canton, Ohio. At least for day one on a Saturday. I hadn't made my mind up on Sunday. Nothing against Alan Faneca. It's just a lot of travel going on here, a lot of personal things in my life. So. Steelers are getting some respect there. I'm saying they're getting no respect like Rodney Dangerfield, and here I'm talking about all of everyone, Bill Nunn and everyone else that's getting in, Bill Cowher, Bill Nunn, trying to think, Troy Polamalu, Alan Faneca, and then Donnie Shell. Very long. I knew there was somebody else from the old Steel Curtain days that was hanging in the back of my head, and who could forget? I mean, he's been so long overdue, although I almost did, but then again, I said, man, I'm exhausted. I still, too much grilling fumes and adult beverages around the Stars and Stripes and the fireworks, and I've got all my digits, so you don't have to worry about me. I did okay. So, what's got me ticked off about the Steelers getting no respect, talking about all this Hall of Fame stuff and all of the people that they continue to put in, a long line of them. Well, one of the guys that's going to be in there eventually, Big Ben, Ben Roethlisberger. I saw this list. I don't know where it even came from. Somebody cropped it out. This is one of the reasons. I was having a little conversation on Twitter, a little sidebar here with, I don't want to say necessarily a competitor, because I don't think I'm competing with anyone else's platform. It's not like a slice of the pie. There's enough pie to go around. You just get a larger pizza pie so there's more Steelers content. It's not necessarily, well, here's a slice and you're taking away from somebody else who may have wanted a slice of that pizza. It doesn't work like that. So I was talking with somebody else here in the Twitterverse, Mike Nicastro, if you must know, from the Yins Are Crazy show. And we're talking on Twitter about some of the content thieves and stuff. And as a prime example, I can't even attribute who this list is from because somebody cropped the graphic out. I think I saw who it was originally from, and now I can't even tell you. So my apologies here. I can't even faithfully say who made this list. Somebody may jump in the comments after they've seen it, but it's been floating around, I think, for a good week here. And basically myself and Mike were talking about, it's like, hey, people take these things, and it's like, yeah, this is the reason why I don't do as many graphics anymore, because people used to do this. You put all this work into this, and then all of a sudden it's like nobody gets any credit. Not that you're getting any, financial kickbacks or anything if somebody just rips it off and puts it on their own Facebook to share. But at least they're like, hey, this came over from Steel City Underground. We can go to Steel City Underground. Let's see what else these guys, let's see what else they're out of their minds on. A lot of people think I'm crazy, biased for my views. I think some of it sounds crazy too, but I'm willing to at least stand behind it. You know what I mean? I try not to be too far out there, all right? This one is just too much for me. This is a quarterback's rankings list. I don't necessarily have a problem as we start with the first names, and let's just assume these players are going to be playing in 2021. Primarily Aaron Rodgers and Deshaun Watson, who are both on this. They're in the top 5, actually. Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson. That's your top 5. I like Deshaun Watson. I don't know what's going on with his legal situation, so I'm just talking strictly as a football player. I've always thought Aaron Rodgers was a bit overhyped. Anyone who's followed this show for a long time knows Russell Wilson is my favorite non-Steeler currently playing in the NFL. Patty Mahomes, man, he's 3 straight AFC Championship games, 2 back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, 1 ring. You can't really argue with that. Tom Brady, maybe the best ever to do this at the position, just based on the amount of hardware he has and the number he's put up and the longevity that he's played. It's really hard to take it away from him, as much as, I don't want to like him over all of these years. He's at least garnered some respect. You can't take it away from him. Josh Allen at 6, which is very intriguing. It's like Josh Allen had a breakout year last year. You look at the rest of his resume, and it's not so hot. That whole quarterback class still, I think, they have a lot to chew off the bone there until you could start really catapulting them into this stratosphere here in the top 10, especially like Dak Prescott. Yeah, he was putting up some huge numbers. Would he have continued doing that the whole season? He might have. The Cowboys' defense was absolutely miserable last year. So if they're getting scored on every 2 minutes, the Dallas offense, it would have just been like a shootout. They got the wide receivers, they got Zeke Elliott, they got the offensive linemen and stuff. But still, I kind of feel that Dak Prescott's maybe a little too high on the list already as I'm going here. Obviously, I think Josh Allen, but it's like, who else do I put above him as I go through the rest of this list before I get to Ben? All the way down at 16, by the way. Yeah, there are 15 quarterbacks listed, all of them that I'm naming, ahead of Ben Roethlisberger. Getting no respect. And people are going to say Ben has a noodle arm and Ben's slowing down and Ben's doing this and doing that. I mean, the guy, for not only his age, it's not like I had somebody the other day talk about Peyton Manning. Believe it or not, they tried to compare Ben to Peyton Manning with the Denver Broncos. I don't think that the Denver Broncos offense was absolutely insane for those 4 seasons that Peyton Manning wore a Broncos jersey. He had that neck surgery. He missed the 2011 season. He played 4 more years. He played in almost every single game up until the last season that he played. He was around Ben's age, 39, but the drop-off was completely sharp. I mean, it was like, whew. You didn't have this gradual decline. If anything, Ben will have the gradual decline. I don't think he's quite there yet. I think we're starting to see it with Drew Brees last year. And I understand Father Time is undefeated. I'm not trying to pretend. But to make your argument with Peyton Manning, who threw for 5,477 yards and 55 touchdowns in 2013. He was in the Pro Bowl those 3 of the 4 years. He missed... he started 9 games, missed 6 games that entire season in 2015 where they still made the Super Bowl, and he was statistically the worst quarterback to start in a Super Bowl in the Super Bowl era of any of the games, any of the quarterbacks on each side, AFC or NFC or AFL, NFL, whatever you want to say. Still there, it was one of the first time, the only time other than his rookie season where he didn't have at least 60% completion percentage, but he is off by like 0.2% of a percent of 60%, 59.8, but that was down from 66.2, 68.3, and 68.6. I mean, that's 37, 55, and 39 touchdowns. Yeah, okay, he went 9 touchdowns to 17 interceptions. That's not Ben Roethlisberger. Somebody looking at him from last year, Ben Roethlisberger, 3,803 yards, 65.6 completion percentage, 33 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. And if you didn't have so many darn quarterbacks and backups and stuff that were playing, I think Drew Lock was at the top of the list with like 15 or something, which, Ben led the list a few years ago with 17, which at that time were the fewest amount of interceptions to lead the league in interceptions in a season. And then you have, obviously, Drew Lock didn't play a full season last year, and you have a few players of that nature. But, I mean, I think as long as, I think we're all in agreement, you don't want Ben he threw 608 passes last year. He threw 675 the year before he got injured in 2019. It's too much. And he had 62 already in 6 quarters of football in 2019. Save this guy a little bit. Well, they're trying to. That's why they got Najee Harris. So where do you put Ben on this list? You put him 16th. Continuing, we already have Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, Wilson, Watson, Allen, Prescott, Lamar Jackson. Okay, he's been an MVP. He's he's not a running back, but his style. They win games. They have a whole offensive system built around it. I have no problem with him being in the top 10. He plays the quarterback position, right? He may not play it traditionally, but that's okay. I have no problem with that. Definitely a young talent. So far, he's done more than Josh Allen has. It's not that I dislike Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen has a bright future. I think Lamar, depending on how the Ravens passing game ends up panning out in the next several years, we've seen it with the mobile-style quarterbacks. A lot of people like to say, well, Ben isn't as mobile, this and that. You don't have to necessarily be mobile to win games and put up numbers. Tom Brady isn't the most mobile quarterback, and has never been known. When you watch him run, go out for a pass, you're just like, what is this? It looks like a duck. No, don't get me started on geese. God, geese. Got so many geese around here to cross the road. Hit the suckers. I don't, but you find them like all over the place. Oh, they're in the way. They poop everywhere. Matt Ryan, number 9. Here's a guy, to quote Chris Collinsworth, here's a guy He's put up a lot of numbers, done a whole lot of nothing on some bad Falcons teams. Kind of reminds me of number 11, Matt Stafford. I jumped over number 10. They put Baker Mayfield in the top 10. Man, I don't know if there's still some Browns trolls listening to this show. Baker had a better year last year. Okay. That's not necessarily, he didn't have a Josh Allen type year. He didn't have a Justin Herbert type year. We're talking 486 pass attempts, which was the same exact number he had in his rookie season. 26 touchdowns. He had 27 in his rookie year. He limited his interceptions. He only had 8. So if he doesn't make as many mistakes, okay, we're going to start putting him into some rare territory. But I got to see it again after he threw 21 the year before. 22 to 21 and less than 60% completion percentage when he was relied on to throw, I don't know how many more passes here. At least, see, I got to do that math thing again. About 50 more passes here, pass attempts. Plays all 16 games in each of those seasons. I get it. He's a young, up-and-coming guy. A lot of people like the Browns' story. Number 10, I don't know. You rank him ahead of Stafford? I don't know what to think of Stafford on a new team. Stafford's always put up numbers. I said I would have loved Stafford in the Steelers uniform. Would have gotten you about a 5-year, 6-year reprieve of youth if Ben would have retired and Stafford would have came in. Ryan Tannehill. That's just a real interesting name as well. Derek Carr. Tannehill gets me. Derek Carr actually put up some numbers last year. I had to go and look at that myself, and I'm like, okay, he did whatever. Tannehill's in the same category as Ben. He threw more touchdowns, 33 to 7 interceptions. He doesn't attempt a lot of passes, 481. He's still a sub-500 passing guy. Just to give you an idea, too, you're probably thinking it's like, well, these are teams that are run heavy when I'm making a critique on Baker Mayfield, Ryan Tannehill. You get Tom Brady. Tom Brady has attempted over 600 passes each of the last 2 years, 42 and 43 years of age. So that's just kind of something that's interesting there is some of the old guard guys throwing the ball a little bit more. I think when you throw it more and you don't throw that many interceptions, I think that's more bodes well for your argument of being a better quarterback. Like if Ben only throws 10 picks on 613, I said, for attempts. Yeah, I mean, you're throwing the ball a lot more. There's more risk there. Derek Carr, 517 attempts. He threw for 4,100 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. That's Ben territory right there. But they have Derek Carr. It's better than what Derek Carr had been doing, right? He's never really been that much of a turnover machine, but they have him at 13. Kirk Cousins is another guy. Another run team. Justin Herbert, I've mentioned before, 15. Same numbers as Ben. So he's up and coming. He has the same exact statistical season as Ben Roethlisberger at 16 on this list. It's Ben right in the middle of the pack, right? It's like he'll never get the Brady and Rodgers or even the Phillip Rivers respect, the Drew Brees respect. It's just never, ever going to be there. And I don't understand why. We all acknowledge that he throws the ball a lot more than everyone else. The rest of this list is even more preposterous. So who would I put Ben over? Well, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, Ryan Tannehill for sure. I'd have Matt Ryan up in there. I'd probably shuffle around Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson a little bit. Baker Mayfield obviously move around in there. Can Ben be fringe top 10? Yeah. 6 spots out of the top 10, right in the middle of the league. 32 quarterbacks listed, and he's 16th. That's too low. I'm sorry. You got to get this guy up 3 or 4 spots. I'll take him at 11 or 12. I think that would be a fair list here. My apologies. Some nice hot coffee. Try and get the cobwebs out. Like I said, man, holiday hangover. Rest of this list. Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow at 18. Has not even a full season in the NFL under his belt. Thought he looked sharp. Of the young guys, Joe Burrow, for me, I'm most concerned about, even compared to Lamar Jackson or Baker Mayfield in the future. That's maybe a hot take for some people, but if he stays healthy. Ryan Fitzpatrick at 19. So 3 spots behind Ben Roethlisberger, you got a guy that's played for 20 NFL teams. It's just been like a little facetious there, but you get my point. Daniel Jones, man, I don't know what to think of him. He loses the ball too much. He could be good, but he's got to take care of the ball. You can't do that in the NFL. Trevor Lawrence at 21 hasn't even taken an NFL snap. They got him over Jimmy Garoppolo, Carson Wentz. They actually listed Jameis Winston / Taysom Hill. You can't do that. pick one or the other. Because if it's Jameis, I think you're going a little bit further down this list. I don't even know that Taysom Hill belongs as a quarterback. Are they going to try and do the Lamar Jackson type thing with Taysom? That could work out. Don't ask him to do too much, run the ball more. You got Elvin Kamara. Justin Fields hasn't taken a snap either. He's at 25 above Jared Goff, Cam Newton, Sam Darnold, Tua Tagovailoa. Wow, at 29. Whoever made this list has something out for Tua or the Dolphins, right? Another young, bright quarterback that I think could have a decent future. Is he going to be the bee's knees? Is he going to be Patrick Mahomes at the King of the Mountain here, number 1 overall? I don't know. Zach Wilson, 30th. He hasn't taken a snap yet either. I think some of this gets weighted a little bit by the teams because you see the Chiefs, the Bucks, the Packers, the Seahawks. But then you have the Texans at 5. So if you're taking the team into consideration and whether or not Deshaun Watson's even going to play, that should drop Deshaun Watson out of the top 10 immediately. So Zach Wilson, the last two, Zach Wilson's at 30, Jalen Hurts 31, and Drew Lock 32. We don't even know if Drew Lock's going to be the starter. His leash is probably pretty short here in Denver, especially with Teddy Bridgewater coming to town. Ben Roethlisberger, though, getting no respect there. He's also gotten no respect from ESPN's Mike Tannenbaum. This is great for all the clicks. Not just clicks and views like clickbait, but all the little clicky blogs and everything out there, the USA Today sites, the SB Nation sites, whatever you want to call them. And every single outlet picked up on this little 2 or 3 minute, it wasn't even that long on ESPN, quotes from Mike Tannenbaum, ESPN NFL analyst, who thinks Ben Roethlisberger's days of being a reliable quarterback are over. Yikes. That's a big yikes, because when I was making some arguments and some comments about this quarterbacks list, one of the things that was said is, well, no wonder why this is going to be Ben's last year. I said, who said that that's going to be? If you've heard this here before, sorry, I'm going to repeat it again, but just because he has void years in this contract, the whole thing in the offseason was, look, Ben, we don't have money. As an organization, the Steelers were over cap space, and they had to restructure what was the final year of Ben Roethlisberger's contract, paying out like $40 million, because they've restructured it how many times. This isn't just like we're rewarding Ben with this very large contract. Yes, it was a nice, healthy amount a few years ago. They extend him, they restructure him all the time, and what it does is you keep kicking the can down the road, and then all of a sudden you're owing this guy 41 it might have been, and they had to restructure it. So all of a sudden, everyone else that's outside of the Steelers, and even some people who only kind of casually drop in during the offseason, believe that this is Ben Roethlisberger's last year. Well, he restructured the contract. He didn't kick it out further years. That's all a thing that can be redone later, next year, offseason, depending on what happens here. Tom Brady just did it. He had the void years. He had all these void years stacked in with Tampa, and they just redid his contract to play this year. So it's just Ben's last year. This guy, Mike Tannenbaum, thinks Ben's going to be benched this season. He's going even further than some of the folks I don't want to say argue with, but it's arguments, because it's usually like fans of other teams, Cleveland, that argue about Ben Roethlisberger's longevity and whether or not he'll be back next year. I'm not even looking at that. Let's see what 2021 does first. Let's see is he healthy? Do they win? What kind of numbers does he put up? What's this offense look like? Just pump the brakes on all that. But do I expect him to be benched? Man, I don't know. Mike Tomlin, I just don't see it. He'll put Ben out there with one leg. I mean, we've seen it. And Ben wants to be out there with one leg too. Tomlin has tried to hold him off sometimes. You remember the X-ray machine thing with the Oakland Raiders and that loss? That's a rough one. That's still one that's always going to stick in my craw. But we saw with the Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges season in 2019, definitely Rudolph was the guy. Rudolph got hurt. Hodges went in. Rudolph comes back because that was his job. And then he definitely had some confidence issues. He was seeing some ghosts. They were still winning some games, But there was that really shaky game in Cincinnati. I was there, and it was just a miserable half of football. Kind of a chilly day. Ball's just not going where you want. You got Kareth White carrying the football in the backfield. Betty Snell didn't have James Conner. I don't think they had Juju. They get Duck in there they bring Duck in, and he gets the one long pass to James Washington. All of a sudden, he's the hero of Pittsburgh. And people forget, they had some defensive stands with Arizona. Yeah, he won some games. He also dropped those 3. And then Tomlin went back to Rudolph in that Jets game where then he ended up breaking his collarbone after throwing a touchdown pass. It was just, I think Tomlin, is he like the type of ruthless like Nick Saban would be with Alabama and, putting Tua in or something like that? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I would think as long as Ben's available and healthy, I don't know that Mike Tomlin would sit him. This would have to be a thing for the team where maybe Ben just comes out. Maybe he comes out and says it. Maybe not the drama queen king type thing where he says the old gunslinger doesn't have it anymore. No, I think this would have to be a coaching decision that would have to be made. I think it would have to be a mutual decision if he was really hurting the team that bad. It's just not something that I feel is viable, and this is just one guy just trying to talk and get some attention to his Twitter feed or whatever. I don't know where these guys pull off these things during the season, but again, not getting any respect. Speaking of coaches, Mike Tomlin, say what you will about him. I know people get tired of hearing never had a losing season. I know there's some 8-8 seasons in there. The guy's been a very successful NFL head coach for a very long time. And he's made a lot of playoff appearances. He's gotten a team to a Super Bowl twice. No, it's not just Bill Cowher's players. There's like 8 guys carried over between both of those teams, to be honest. And they were young players at that point, too. Troy Polamalu was still a young player. Heath Miller was still a young player. Ben Roethlisberger still a young player. Those draft picks were like bing, 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 like 3 years in a row, right at the tail end of the Bill Cowher era. And Mike Tomlin ends up bringing in other guys or playing players that were brought in under Bill Cowher but weren't playing real significantly, or didn't play in that Super Bowl at least with Jerome Bettis, okay? So like Santonio Holmes, for example, was drafted the last year. Bill Cowher was there. He didn't play in Super Bowl 40 with the Jerome Bettis team against the Seahawks. So that's such a tired argument for me. The rest of it, you see, Tomlin has had, there's always turnover. It's like, I was just talking with somebody else about this on Twitter. The window for teams. Yeah, every team's window is 2-3 years. The average NFL career is usually 4. And you got a lot of the contracts that overlap. It's a 4-year contract with a lot of the rookies. So a lot of times you only have a 1 or 2 year window opportunity for success. Players get older. Players leave because you can't afford to keep them. Free agency, rookie contracts. Look at Seattle. Good example there. You pay Russell Wilson, Legion of Boom. They hit that one draft, and like none of those guys are there anymore, obviously. But I mean, like Richard Sherman's like 32 or 33 now. That's hard to believe. You blink, time flies, man. Again, Father Time undefeated, but all those guys, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, Bruce Irvin, they're all gone from there. It doesn't last forever. It's the same thing that happened with the Steelers. You just gotta kind of accept that. Mike Tomlin been able to rebuild on the fly. They're constantly rebuilding this defense. They were always looking for that next great outside linebacker. Now you have like a perennial defensive player of the year. Oh, I'm going to be talking about him in a moment, TJ Watt. But Mike Tomlin, is he a good coach or bad coach? Okay, you've had some declines in December. You've also had a team that won 13 games back in 2017. They started to fall apart, and all of a sudden you find out that Antonio Brown is a complete nutcase. Was Tomlin able to keep a lid on that for so long? There's so many players that say they praise and say so many great things about him as a coach, and be able to manage this. It's not like college football. I mentioned Nick Saban. You can bench a guy if you want. What's it matter? These guys are on like scholarship. There's not millions of dollars on the line. There's not like extended deals and contracts on the line. You got to deal with some major divas. Look at Green Bay. Look at Aaron Rodgers. There's your perfect example there, right? You got to deal with all sorts of different headaches that are different in the pro game, in the pro aspect. So I saw this. I don't know what SOG football is. I'd have to look them up. Head coach hierarchy for the upcoming season. They have tiers. They have it broken down into tiers. They have Mike Tomlin in tier 2. Not necessarily the worst here, but I do get a little bit bothered. Okay. Let me tell you the 4 guys they have at tier 1. Sean Payton. Fine. Perfect. No problems. Bill Belichick. I think he's earned his respect there. Andy Reid, definitely earned. Those 3 guys earned. Sean McVay. Sean McVay. I'm like, are you kidding me? How does Sean McVay climb into tier 1 as a coach, as one of the top 4, as they have top 4 coaches in the National Football League? Okay, the Rams, they didn't even win their division last year. They did get 10 games. McVay being coach, they've had 2 first-place finishes, and then they've had a third and missed the playoffs at 9-7, and then they lost the divisional game last year. Does that put him ahead? No, I like Kyle Shanahan. They have him in tier 2. The guy's been snake-bitten with injuries in San Francisco. Bruce Arians just won a Super Bowl, so I guess he's got to be somewhere, at least in the top half. They have Pete Carroll down in tier 3, which is just mad disrespect. John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin are in here at tier 2. And those are the guys I'd probably bump up over McVay for sure. Sean McDermott, still got some things to prove here. And I believe Kevin Stefanski. It's like, don't put this guy this high just yet. It's like, it's just drives me insane. Just drives me insane. They've already got Urban Meyer like in tier 5 ahead of. They have 6 tiers. It's pretty funny. Zach Taylor is all the way one of the guys at the bottom here. It kind of sucks talking about these guys too. The head coaches, this is their job and livelihood, and you're talking about whether they should be hired or fired. The 3 of those 4 guys I'm okay with, but it's like a lot of disrespect for Mike Tomlin. He got the team back into playoffs. They won 12 straight games. Say what you will, easy schedule or whatever. They had to do this in a pandemic season, okay? And with all the changes that they had, and they still ripped off 12 straight wins without a loss. Guy gets no respect. They fell apart with injuries. They got tired. They played 13, 14, if you count the wild card games, straight games. First loss, 5 days of rest after playing the Ravens on a Wednesday afternoon. First loss 5 days later against the Washington football team with now everybody's like, oh, they're one of the top defenses in the NFL. That front 4. I can't argue that. I didn't see Ron Rivera on this list, actually. Oh, there he is, tier 4. That's kind of interesting. I've seen Ron Rivera actually ranked ahead of Mike Tomlin on some other lists too. I just didn't have those available right away here. But yeah, Mike Tomlin, he's one of the top coaches in the NFL, whether you like it or not. You're talking about a top 5 list or a top 10 list. He's definitely in the top 10, and you're going to make the arguments he's in the top 5. You can make some arguments for why he shouldn't be, but then again, you could say these same things about Sean Payton or even Bill Belichick last year and the team that he's going into, because this is for the upcoming season. What you're ranking, we're just going to pretend that Bill Belichick's going to win the division and take his team right back to the AFC Championship. That's kind of what you're presuming. You at least got a history to look back on and say all of that. Andy Reid, of course, has been hot on fire. All the same things I said about Patty Mahomes. Sean McVay, I'm sorry. Nah, get out of town. Can't do that one. We talk about defenses. Everybody's talking about top defenses in the NFL. I think they just kind of discount the Pittsburgh Steelers. They kind of discount that the Steelers had lost Bud Dupree in free agency. Yeah, they released Steven Nelson. That had to be something that was calculated and known. Then they lost Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton on the field, maybe 60% of the time. So not all the time. Nickel corner, blitzer. Yeah, okay. That one I think is going to be. They're going to have a platoon of guys that are going to be trying to fill that type of role until they find just the right one. And it could be a weak spot. How weak of a spot is it in the NFL? Pass happy league? We'll see. Having Hilton definitely was better than maybe not having him. 9.5 sacks, 4 years with the Steelers. He missed 4 games last year. He still had 3 sacks. I think he had 2 in one game, if I recall. 7 passes deflected, forced 3 fumbles over a period of those 59 games that he appeared in. Pretty good tackling, 5 quarterback hits. I think some of these numbers can definitely, maybe not the sacks. It depends. It depends on scheme, right? You're double teaming one of these guys up front. Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Stephon Tuitt, who, by the way, little bit of respect there. Cam Hayward and Stephon Tuitt. In fact, Tuitt made the list higher than Hayward on one of these. Some of the people, there was actually someone who had Tuitt ranked higher than Aaron Donald, which that one, I'm going to tell you to hold the phone on that one. Like, as much as that was kind of cool to see that somebody thought that highly of Stephon Tuitt, who had double-digit sacks last year for the first time. When that guy's on the field and healthy, he terrorizes everyone. Tyson Alualu's back. I've already mentioned how Alex Highsmith is or had a better final 8 games of his season, 5 of those as a starter when Bud Dupree got hurt, than the entirety of the 8 games that Jadeveon Clowney played, and fewer snaps too, like 80 fewer snaps played as well. Clowney with like no sacks at all last year. Clowney, it just kind of cracks me up. I don't want to get on a rant about the Browns here, but you know the Browns have a they lost both of their 2 interior defensive linemen, both of their defensive tackles. So I see Myles Garrett get some notoriety over TJ Watt. In fact, someone just ranked him as the best edge rusher in the NFL, and I'm like, it's okay. I don't necessarily have a problem putting Myles Garrett up there. Is he one of the top guys? Absolutely. I think TJ Watt should have been Defensive Player of the Year. A lot of people are pumping up the Browns' defense and how great they're going to be based on a variety of factors of, I'm just telling you, like with the Steelers, losing Mike Hilton, losing Bud Dupree, but Alex Highsmith, at least comparable, if not better, than Jadeveon Clowney last year. Clowney's going to put the Browns over the top. Steelers won't be over the top, even though Dupree was a guy. Dupree was definitely on fire last 2 years. And he was finally developing into this major force that you wish you could have held onto the team. The problem was you waited that long to get to that point, and the Steelers' defense was still stout. So Alex Highsmith, we've already seen, I think, has a higher floor. Will his ceiling be as high? That's still a story that needs to be written. But I feel comfortable. I feel comfortable there. I feel comfortable. Cam Sutton taking over. I'm going to get back to my Clowney points and the Browns points here in a second, but these correlate together because I don't think the Steelers defense gets enough respect. I don't think TJ Watt gets enough respect. I don't think Cam Sutton's getting enough respect just yet. I think you got to see him in a full-time role on the outside. We've seen him a lot there, but for a second contract that the Steelers have given out, I have not felt this good or this excited about a second contract. This is a big one. I'm putting it out there. You're going to be able to come back to this. Mark down the date in July. This is the most excited I've been since Antonio Brown. I was an Antonio Brown guy before probably anybody else was. I don't know why. Just something. I saw it and I gravitated toward it and I said, this guy's going to be something special. Nothing other than that. I don't have some special scouting skills or anything. But when they gave the contract to AB instead of Mike Wallace, I said, here we go. And I remember I couldn't even buy an Antonio Brown jersey. In fact, it was my wife who bought it for me. It was the Bumblebee throwback. And in fact, it was a Strip District special because it got the 80th anniversary patch on it too, which is cool. I wanted that thing so bad. I got it somewhere up here on the wall. That is just so cool. Obviously, that resonates with the whole Steel City Underground platform based on our own branding, right? You see it down here in the corner somewhere, this corner. So anyway, I feel very, very good about Cam Sutton. That's why I said he is one of the priority guys they needed to sign this offseason. I don't think they're going to miss a beat there. They're not going to miss a beat outside linebacker. Everything else is there. A healthy Devin Bush. You lost him 5th game, but 6 weeks because of that stupid bye week that the league threw at. So the Browns game, they lose Devin Bush. He's the defensive play caller. And then Robert Spillane misses the last 4 games of the year too. It's just so hard. Those games were losses, right? It was right back to the Ryan Shazier thing that happened in 2017. Everybody wants to just throw, burned Mike Tomlin at the stake like a witch hunt over this, and the guy keeps losing his defensive quarterback and the defensive quarterback's backup, because Shazier's backup was Tyler Matakevich, who went on IR too. Spillane on IR for the last 4 years last year, and then Avery Williamson's trying to do that, and Avery Williamson is more a clone of Vince Williams. He's not necessarily a coverage guy that's there. So Vince Williams is back. Devin Bush, geez, I want to get to the Clowney thing, but Devin Bush is just trolling everybody on Twitter right now. Who cares? I think he went on there just to kind of prove a point that all of you that are out there all over Juju because of his TikTok stuff, all over Chase Claypool saying, oh, well, he's going to be the next diva wide receiver because whatever he puts on Instagram and anything else like that. Bush comes out and starts talking about there being arbitrary rules. He's joking about maybe getting fined. He posted something that was very insensitive, the cat video. All of these things you could like look up in your free time if you want, if you're not already aware of them. All of the various places where you need to get, where they need their clicks and everything. Have beaten this. Definitely, this is beating the dead horse here for a better lack of example after just mentioning the cat thing. Poor taste or intentional trolling. I think the guy, I don't think he's lost his mind. I don't think he's Antonio Brown. He is having some fun with all the people who take some of this stuff way too serious. Which, by the way, it's not going to affect what he does on the field. He comes back. He's a huge. You forget his rookie year because Minka came in and just overshadowed him with like the pick sixes and everything. But Devin Bush was on fire to start that year and had this enormous amount of pressure on his shoulders to have to fill those shoes that nobody could from Ryan Shazier for the previous couple of seasons. And then it all went away and everybody kind of forgot about it because quietly he does his job. He's not so quiet about it right now in the Twitterverse. That's okay. I'm all right with that. But anyways, the Steelers' defense just doesn't get the same type of respect that they should. Cleveland Browns lose both of their interior defensive linemen. They've got a guy, Andrew Billings, who's bounced around from the Bengals. He went 4th round. It was somebody that I'd actually mocked to the Steelers as a first-round pick. I liked him coming out of college. Thought, hey, like everybody else, you need the next Casey. You never got the Casey Hampton thing. Well, the league has moved on from that, and this guy has had knee problems, can't get on the field. Opted out last year due to COVID, which may be more of an indication that he doesn't have what it takes to play. There's like a 4th or 5th round rookie from Ohio State, Togi, I forget how to pronounce his name now. But these are the guys that they're relying on. Malik Jackson, he's 32, 33 years old too. He's a veteran player. I don't always necessarily say that that's old for that, but you're bringing in some new guys. You got Clowney there. You got a rookie in JOK. You got a rookie that's unsigned with Greg Newsome. You got Grant Delpit, 2nd year, but didn't play last year. Denzel Ward, who's missed at least 3 games in 2 of his 3 seasons and 4 in the other. He can't stay healthy, and all of a sudden it's the Browns defense is this feared thing, but nobody gives the Steelers defense any respect. Do I think the Browns defense, will they be better? I think they're going to have trouble stopping the run. The defensive backfield, yeah, absolutely. I think they should be better. I thought Greg Newsome's a pretty solid pick. I like John Johnson. I don't have a problem with him. I don't know what Grant Delpit's going to do. And Denzel Ward, I'm still an Ohio State guy, so it's hard for me to put some disrespect on his name. But he's got to stay healthy. And he had that big rookie season and then has kind of been just – he's going to command a good dollar in free agency or a second contract from Cleveland when that time comes. But the amount of disrespect that's put on the Steelers by constantly mentioning, Washington football team, that front four sounds really exciting. Is the rest of it together? I don't know. Browns defense? I don't know. The Steelers defense didn't lose a whole heck of a lot, and Highsmith was already a starter last year, and Sutton was already a spot starter in some circumstances too. That gets me to my point of when you're ranking certain players higher than others, TJ Watt in particular, behind Myles Garrett. TJ Watt, let me get his numbers here. 15 sacks last year. Has sacked more than the previous year. 13, 14.5, and 15 over the last 3 years. 7 in his rookie season. But you take a look at the last 47 games, he's had 42.5 sacks. Well, Myles Garrett has had 32.5 sacks in 50 games. And you're going to say he's the best edge rusher in the NFL. Myles Garrett, we talk about Mike Tomlin slowing down November, December. Myles Garrett, here's an interesting statistic for you. In 25 games that he's played in September and October, he has 21 sacks in those 25 games. So pretty much the first half of the season, right? 21 and 25. 11 and a half and 25 when you get to the latter half of the season in November and December. 11 and a half. Exactly half as many, almost half as many sacks. It would be 23 if you doubled that up. But he's about half as effective as the season goes on. Is there some type of film thing? Does he slow down? I know they're still going to make that argument. It's like, well, they're going to have to double team him. Clowney can run free or whatever. It's like, I think the interior defensive line there is going to get manhandled more than what you're going to see with, Alex Highsmith stepping in with Bud Dupree, and you have Hayward and Tuitt, and then T.J. Watt. And then still Tyson Alualu. Still a great component to have back. So I think the Steelers defense gets a little bit too much disrespect. We'll see how Joe Hayden ends up panning out. If he's still the same player. He's up there again, Father Time undefeated. It's scary if one of these guys does go down, but then again, that's the story with just about any team in the NFL when it comes to depth. I'm running out of steam myself. So, pretty much covered everything as far as the disrespect thing. Leave Devin Bush alone. Don't feed the trolls. Training camp's right around the corner, and Chase Claypool camp's right around the corner. I think Ben Roethlisberger has plenty of football left. I think Mike Tomlin is one of the higher-ranked coaches in the NFL. I think T.J. Watt should have been Defensive Player of the Year in each of the last 2 seasons. And I still think because of some of these narratives that float around, some people just need some fodder. I think it gets a lot of attention just because there's so many Steelers fans. Steelers don't have a long history of being unsuccessful. Haven't had a losing season since 2003. It's kind of like New England Patriots, too. Patriots would start these seasons with Tom Brady, or even without him. They might go 2-2 to start the year, and all of a sudden is the dynasty over with? And it's like everybody likes to see the climb, right? They like to see this happens in wrestling, this happens in MMA, this happens in boxing, all these sports with the cage or the ring, right? The fights, and you see a fighter ascend, and it's such a great story. It's like, yeah, I like to see them get there. And this was the Patriots a long time ago, right? They were one of the basement teams in the NFL, and it was such a great story to finally see them get in a Super Bowl. They had Drew Bledsoe at that point. Then they get back with Tom Brady, and it's like, hey, they're no longer a doormat. And you kind of see that same thing correlate with some other teams. Tampa Bay, obviously, last year. Cleveland Browns, same thing. But the teams that are like the old guard, I think some people love to just wallow in the misery and see what ends up happening with them. I'm going to say the Packers and Aaron Rodgers is a nice hot button topic for that. The Steelers definitely is, with an older Ben Roethlisberger, and the way that their season ended wasn't the best. I'm waiting for how long until maybe Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid get the hate. Everybody was all over Andy Reid for the longest time as not being able to, get over the hump and finally get that Super Bowl ring. So you always have these stories. I think that's the reason why you see, I think the successful teams, I think there's more money. There's more clicks and views. I'm always saying this. It's not to disparage it. It's kind of, the era we're in 2021. This is the way that some of these businesses generate and make money. I'm not, I'm empathizing with that. You're watching the show, right? Or you're listening to it. I appreciate everyone's support. It doesn't mean we're millionaires over here or anything like that. Guys with opinions, or gals, depending on who's on here. And it's just, you're going to bring down the teams that are up, and you're going to lift the teams that are down. And I think that generates the most interest among the largest group of fans. I don't think anybody that has a team like, let's say the Jets, been perpetually bad, and you're not going to dig them a hole and bury them and put dirt over it. That's not going to generate any interest from their fan base. It doesn't generate clicks, views, jersey sales, ticket sales, viewership numbers, or anything like that. It does nothing. So in the same respect, I think that's why the Steelers get a little bit more disrespect. And I say, keep piling it on. I don't need to have the smoke blown up my rear end. You know what I mean? I think this just gives them a little more ammunition. I think they already have enough ammunition from the way last year ended. I don't think this is lost on Mike Tomlin. I don't think this is lost on Ben Roethlisberger and some of the other veterans in that locker room, including guys like Juju or even Vince Williams, Cam Hayward, any of those guys. All right. I see these things. Should they bother me? Nah, it's just something that's fun to talk about. It helps fill a little bit of space here as we're heading into camp. So I'm going to put a bow on the show. Once again, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Love all of you 2%ers who are still here with us the whole way. Hopefully I get some of my colleagues on for some future shows. We still have a few other topics to address right before training camp hits here. And that'll about do it for us. And look forward to seeing your comments, hearing from some of you. Some of you not so much sometimes, but it's okay. I don't necessarily hate. Some of you aren't always wrong. This isn't like it's not black and white. There's a lot of gray area here because you know what? It's still July and we still don't have the games to go on to say they did this, they did that. You could look back in retrospect on, last season and say a lot of things too, and then just try and guess on how anyone's going to play out for the 2021 season. So my name's Joe. Appreciate you being here. As always, we encourage our listeners and viewers out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.